So I'm always excited for our WinWing products, and this one is no exception. I am very excited for this. I just got these two boxes today, and we're going to be taking a look at these today. But WinWing is now dropping new products, and we're going to look at it one by one. Let's go. And then the main event is here. Wow, 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 wee. Oh my word. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Look at that. Immediately I could tell you that this is much larger than what I'm used to with the Thrustmaster. Much, much larger. Much larger, much heavier, and immediately my hand goes to the bottom, and what am I feeling? What's that, like cast aluminum? That's a heavy base. That's a very heavy base. I mean, I don't mean to start with the bottom of it, but you have your connector for your data cable, and you have your USB 3.0 connector. Those are the only connection I see. I have wire routing channels for routing wires and stuff around, but that's a good sign. Let's go ahead and go around the bottom of it here. What do we have? Do not forcefully push or trigger, as this may cause cracks or damage to the trigger. The detent cancel switch is a concealed design and it's required a relatively strong force to trigger. Please operate with care, avoid finger injury. Oh wow. We got to take a look at that and see. That's possibly for the reversers. I'm going to remove the sticker here. Keep that in mind. But what do we have here? Are these to tighten the detents? Yes. You have these two things to tighten the feel of the detents. So that's some serious design. Absolutely serious. Yeah, that's for the detents. And then these are detents on and off. I have to read the manual for that. But anyway, let's take a look at this thing. I can't begin to tell you the size and feel of this thing compared to the Thrustmaster. And I hate to do it to Thrustmaster, but I will definitely have to compare the two. Because this is more life-size like, something like that. It's pretty good. So let's start here. Not entirely sure what these two buttons do in an Airbus. We'll find out. But you have your mode selector switch to crank, norm, and ignition start. Not a heavy feeling switch at all. It's very light to use, but you know, it's not something you use all the while except for starting the engines. That's it. Put it back to the normal mode. Then you go to the master switches here, master 1 and master 2, and you can't move it. Not gonna move. You have to lift up and over to get it into the right slot, and I'm wondering if you can pick that up here. It looks somewhat similar to the mechanism on the real Boeing and Airbus. It's got to come over the slot, and we have heard a lot of people talk about that, but that's what they've done. They've done it. There we go. You can lift over and down and in. This is good. It won't move. You have to lift it up and over. Oh wow, what a treat. Same thing with the number 2. So you have to lift and put into position. That's big deal. We have graduated steps in Flightsim, guys. We have graduated steps in Flightsim. We haven't gotten to the detents yet. Let me go ahead and see if I can move this with my finger. And I can. There it is. And you can see the reversers going back to the normal on that side and also on this side here. Let's see what the detents feels like. So you have climb. Good. That's strong enough. It's not moving. That's MCT, flex position. And that's your toga right there. Wow. This does feel good. It's actually smooth. It actually feels better than what it felt like at Flightsim Expo for this one. It feels better. This throttle detent is something else. This throttle feel is something else. It is so silky smooth. The other Airbus controller that we have does not compare to this. I can tell you right now. As a matter of fact, let's go grab the other one and just do a size comparison real quickly. And I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. But the smoothest of this detent, it felt better than what I felt at Flightsim Expo. It's actually smooth. And that's without me even playing around with the adjustments. Let me go ahead and that's loose on both sides. Okay, so yeah, you can loosen it up so you can move it with a fingertip to your liking. That's pretty cool. There you go. And let's go ahead and tighten these bad boys back up by going clockwise, and you can actually feel it tightening and go all the way to the maximum. I don't know what the real Airbus detent feel like, but let's go. Here we go. Oh yeah, it requires some force. Airbus pilots are not weak after all. You need some muscles to push this thing. It is so smooth. Wow. That ability alone to adjust the detents is, the detent feel is nuts. Absolutely nuts. Wow. And if you're going to tighten these up, you're going to need to have this thing mounted properly to a desk or some kind of platform. Yeah, let me go ahead and back this off a bit. That is a little bit too much. I know you guys can't see it, but I can tell you. Maybe the only thing that's missing, if they had numbers on here to match both of them up, they could have done that, like a number system 1 to 8 or 1 to 10, but hey, yeah, that feels good. Absolutely brilliant. I'm going to go ahead and compare sizes here. All right, so don't get confused. Here we have the Thrustmaster all-in-one. Guess you could take the sides off and move them to the back, but this is all-in-one. This is the size of the Thrustmaster, and right now, I mean, I've had them for years, but they're pretty loose at this point. You can tighten them up here with the Thrustmaster, but yeah, they're pretty loose. You know, feels like a plastic toy. Here is the size of the WinWing compared. So here's the size of the Thrustmaster, and here's the size of the WinWing. And I'll tell you right now, if you look at the size of the reverse thrusters, difference in size. One is much larger, much larger, compared to this one that's just tiny. Also, the size of the width of the independent throttle, it's double the size. It's actually double the size on the WinWing. And I want to say that the WinWing seems to be a life size compared to the Thrustmaster. So there you have it, side by side. That's the Thrustmaster, that's the WinWing. That's almost double the size in terms of the width of it compared to that. See? Two fingers plus another one. Yeah, very much. And then the feel, it's very light. I guess I could tighten it up, but this one, the travel is so smooth, it's like butter. I know it's new, and you could hear the detents. Listen to the detent. Listen to this one. One sounds more plasticky than the other, even though both are made out of plastic. And that is just the throttle itself, almost as big as the entire Thrustmaster unit. We haven't even looked at the speed brakes handle and separate how they are. Same thing with the engine 1 and 2 switch. You could just flip those. These are much larger, and you have to lift up to go into the detents. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and put these on. These stickers seem fairly simple to put on. They come with a sticky backing on here, and all you have to do is peel and line these up as best as you can. There it is, engine 1, and now engine 2. There we go, nice and lined up. So now we're good to go. Wow, I gotta get used to lifting that. Use my index finger to lift, out and on. I'm gonna get used to that. That is the throttle. Ladies and gents, behold, here it is. This is the WinWing aerodynamic configuration panel, aka I call it the flap handle, speed brakes handle, parking brake, and rudder trim panel all together from the packaging. And man, does this thing look good. Let me go ahead and remove all the extra panels here that comes along with it. I will review all those panels. You have the flap handle panel and the speed brake panel. and this is going to be a part of the setup when you go ahead and put it on your built cockpit or your desktop, whichever you're going to go with. We're going to put these to the side here, and let's go ahead and take a closer look at this thing. Wow, this does have some weight to it. It actually really and truly does. And I'm looking at this thing with you guys for the first time. Wow, this is called the aerodynamic panel, and this thing is beautiful. It is heavy, let's just put it that way. It's got some weight to it. Comparing it to the Thrustmaster, it's heavier than the Thrustmaster entire TCA Airbus all-in-one panel. And what we have, let's start with the speed brakes, so which you cannot turn the speed brakes at all. It won't move. You're going to have to lift, move it into position, and it snaps into position and it won't turn. So you're going to have to lift it. Oh wow, if you let it go halfway, it snaps back to the on position, and then it goes back to the off position here. So it's spring loaded in either direction for you, but you do have to lift this in order for it to get out of the detent. So you're going to lift. It does require a little bit of force. It does require some good force to lift and turn, lift and turn. So it's, even though it's made of plastic, this entire thing has a plastic feel to it, molded plastic or injection molded, it does require some force to lift and turn, and I like that. You can hear the panel snapping. Wow, that's the speed brakes. Let's move to the rudder trim. Same thing, spring loaded. You can hear it. And it's a stiff spring. Just snaps back into place immediately as you turn it. Wow. And as you know, with the rudder trim in the Airbus, this panel will light up once we get into the sim. This panel should light up and show you the trim, usually at 0, or should be at 0, I think. And I think this comes into play if you have an engine out or something like that. I'm a Boeing guy, I don't know much about Airbus, but yeah, that's what it is. So those are the two in the main section. Let's move over to the speed brakes. Speed brake handle. Can't we just move it? No, you can't just move the speed brakes handle. You have to lift it up. That's the arm. So there's a lift to arm, and what I've seen pilots do is smack this thing with their fist. I wonder if it will stand up to that abuse. Push it down to disarm it, and then in order to get it in the detent here, got to push down to move it into the different speed brakes position. Now at the quarter position there's no detent here, but at the halfway mark there is a detent that you have to push, and then the 3/4 position is no detent, and then full. So halfway there is a detent. I wonder if this is how it is on the real airplane. As you can see, it springs back to you, so you do have to push this thing in to move it into its detent. And same thing with the middle. Once you get to the middle, doesn't require a push, but there is a detent here. But for the beginning, you have to push down in order to get it to move. It can't move on its own, so you don't inadvertently deploy the spoilers on the airplane. So you push down, move to the back, and then of course arm in, pull it up to arm, push it to disarm. That is beautiful. Beautiful lettering on here for retracted, half, and full. Wow. Solid feel. I like that piece. Let's move over to the flap handle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Flap full. Airbus style. Can you move this? No, you can't. It doesn't move. You have to lift up on that right here in order to get it out. Lift. And there is a detent here. Can't move. Lift again. Same thing, that position. Lift again. That position. Same thing. So can you go forward with that? No, you have to lift. Every time you want to get it into a different detent, you have to lift the handle. Wow. They mimic that really, really, really nice for this aerodynamic panel. I'm liking that. Let's look at the back of it. So it's connected to the main body itself by these plugs here. And these plugs can be disconnected and put back into its connection point here. And just be delicate and gentle with that. There it is. Put back in. There we go. And so that means that potentially you can move these two panels away. The back of it has a connection port for the cable. So this data cable should connect into the throttle itself because it's all a combination piece. So data cable to the throttle, and then the data cables over to the two side pieces for your speed brakes and for your flap. And this is where that comes in. And yes, I'm pretty sure that you're going to have to remove the screws here and here to detach this, and then put this over or on it, or drop this down in the box. We're going to go ahead and do that and test that and get where it spreads out just like the real Airbus cockpit does. So it comes with the two extra panels that you can detach the speed brakes and the ground spoiler. I'm sorry, the speed brakes and the flap, and put it in here so you can have it mounted a separate way. My setup is going to have a real change in it. But the construction of this thing, I have to say, is just solid. It's a solid unit. I can't wait to put this together. So let me go ahead and see if I can take off one of these sides and see how it fits with the bracket that comes along with it. All right, so here we are. We have successfully detached the ground spoiler handle, but what we want to do is get this here, and this will go over and sit over here on the speed brakes handle. All right, so we're going to go ahead and unplug it from the base unit here. So you unplug it from the base unit here. We can set that aside, and then we're going to also remove this piece. And here is the speed brake by itself. Arm it, disarm, push down to move to the detents. Now what you want to do is drop this bad boy in here, and now here is your panel. Wow, that's what it's going to look like. And this is going to have to remember to push down to get this out of the detent. This is going to allow you to now set this into your sim, one beside the other in the correct position. Then the parking brake, the trim, and so forth is going to be set in a different position, just like in the real world. Here's the speed brake handle in terms of size. This is bigger than that. You could see the size difference off the two. It's much stouter on that, and it's not an oval, it's actually flat. This does not have the push down to move, it just moves. This you have to push down and move it into the different detents. With the flat handle, this is a dummy, doesn't move, it doesn't come up. This one comes up. There we go. So it's a huge difference between the two. The color seems similar coloring for Airbus. It's pretty good. But yeah, this is much tinier, much flimsier. Alright, so I've gone ahead and put it back together for the sim. We have attached with the bracket the speed brakes and the speed brakes handle, so forth with that, and also the flap. It's all attached in one piece together by the steel frame, and it is fairly heavy in the hand. I'll tell you that much. Heavy, big, and it's going to require me to redo my entire sim setup. So let's go look at my sim setup, where this is going to go, and how we're going to get this fit and make sure it works with SimMap Pro right out of the box. But I can tell you that this thing is just a pleasure to mess around with. Having to lift the throttle detents, the fuel cutoff switches into position is just a treat. An absolute treat. Yes, anyway, too much of that. I'm leaving these parts off for now because that's going to go in a more full center pedestal mount. I'm not going to put them on because they're going to be too wide if they're on here in the setup that I have now. We'll leave that for later on, but right now, as this thing is, it's just absolutely a monster. I'm loving it. And just to give you a comparison between the old Thrustmaster and the new WinWing throttle quadrant and aero panel, that's the difference in the layout of it. And one is modular and more realistic, and the other one is just an older version of it. But there it is, as you can tell, the Thrustmaster and the WinWing unit. Two different setup and styles. Which one do you like? So here's the new setup that's going to go into the rig. It's going to take the place of the Thrustmaster right there, and it's a little bit longer, a little bit bigger for your home setup without a center pedestal panel. But let's go slap this in and see what it looks like. And man, oh man, she is already at home. It's gonna go right there. But that's what it looks like, all put together for a regular setup without a center pedestal. And that is just gonna be fantastic as I boot up the sim. All right, let's go fire up SimApp Pro here and see what the software sees when you plug in the unit. But I can tell you right now, the lighting on this thing is absolutely fantastic. So after a series of firmware updates with SimApp Pro, looks like it is seeing and registering our unit here. However, what's good is that SimApp Pro is seeing it, and also the complete backlighting is up, and everything is now ready to go and rumble. We're gonna go try this with the Phoenix A320 and see how it works out. But this thing is looking fantastic. I'm loving the backlighting on it. Let's go try the Phoenix here. Now the unit does show up in Microsoft Flight Simulator as WinWing URSA Minor 32 throttle metal left, and I'm not sure if it's fully calibrated yet, but we're going to check and see what it controls. Right now it says none. Let me see if I can use my preset. No, nothing is calibrated as yet for it, and we're going to find out if it just works out of the box or if it's going to need calibration and setup to work with the Phoenix. I have to say that looking at the Phoenix sim layout with the throttle quadrant, the speed brakes, flap handle, and all the other things, and comparing it to this, it is very close in the layout. The park brake is in a different position. Same thing for the rudder trim, but this is a great compromise on the part of WinWing to make this as close as possible to the real Airbus. The real Airbus setup is really nice and simple, and we're gonna go for that. We're gonna eventually try to go for that exact same layout as it is right here, but this is nice. Absolutely love the backlighting in it. It works with the sim, so when I change the backlight in the sim, and it changes also in the throttle quadrant. I did run into some issue where I have to start calibrating this thing for the different detents. I thought it would have come calibrated already, but right now it did not. I don't know if WinWing is going to change that once the software is released, but it is very cool that the feel of this thing is just really nice, and this thing needs to be secured properly because you can get this detent and the throttle so stiff that is crazy. But the beauty of this thing is absolutely astounding. I gotta say that WinWing knocked this one out of the park as well, and we're looking forward to the other components. But check the link in the description below for when you can order this from WinWing, and we will change this entire setup that we have right here to mimic and match the center pedestal of the Airbus A320 series of family airplane. And once we do that, we'll release another video showing how we have this laid out. Very nice from WinWing.